Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marie Herman, and I'm the owner of MRH Enterprises LLC. I am so happy to be here today for Executive Secretary Magazine for this week's Admin Chat. We are going to be looking at how to build a business network from scratch because I find very often administrative professionals know that we should have a good network, but we're not always sure how to actually create one. So, for the next hour, we're going to be looking at it step by step. How do you make yourself a business network? We're going to start by looking at where you go to find the right people to network with, whether that's an in person option or online. How do you know where to go to find the right people? We're going to look at what topics will make the conversation flow. How do you get started? What kind of questions do you ask? What topics do you bring up in the conversation? We're going to learn why networking is so critical for your career, why this is worth the investment of your time and your energy. And we're going to look at how you can build a network that will expand your reach and pay dividends for your entire career. So, first off, let's take a look at why should you even network at all? What's the point? Um, a lot of times it's hard to distinguish between short term networking and long term networking. Ideally, you should be creating long term networks. Your goal should be to expand your life knowledge, to get a much better awareness of all the different resources that are out there waiting for you and all the different people that are potentially quite fascinating to meet that not only could help you, but also would give you an opportunity to give back and let you be a resource for other people. When you have a strong network, it helps you to gain credibility. And you might be wondering, how is that even possible? How would that work? Well, the truth is, the more people work with you and get to know you, the more comfortable they are recommending you. And so that helps to build your credibility for getting referrals, for potentially getting leads on jobs if you needed to do a job search, for finding new vendors. People will feel more comfortable introducing you to others when they've worked with you, when they've gotten to know you. The challenge I see with networking, and it's one of my greatest frustrations, is when I see an admin lose their job and then all of a sudden they're all about the networking. It's, hey, I lost my job today. Can someone tell me about maybe a professional network that I should join? I guess I had to build up my network. That's the wrong time to be thinking about it. Build your network before you need your network. Don't wait until you're in desperate need for something to try to figure out what kind of a network you can cobble together from the resources that you've spent no time and energy developing. You have to cultivate relationships. They don't magically appear because you snap your fingers and you wish for them. You need to cultivate them. You need to spend time and energy building them. So, where should you network? Short answer, everywhere. Everywhere is a potential networking opportunity for you. You can look at your daily life. Where do you spend your time? Clearly you're going to spend a certain amount of your time at work. Hopefully you're involved with a professional organization. There's many of them out there for administrative professionals and in general for practically every profession out there. There are professional organizations. There are social organizations as well. These can be tremendous opportunities for networking, whether that's through your church or your child's school, maybe the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, or whatever your equivalent organization is. But there are social organizations that might be an option for you as well. In my own case, I belong to an organization. It's called 100 Plus Women Who Care. And they have chapters all across the United States. And what they do is they get together on a quarterly basis, they choose a charity, and everyone commits to writing a check to that charity. So the check that I write is matched by up to 99 other checks to magnify the impact that we have. Now, that's a social organization, and it might have no value on the surface from a professional perspective. But in fact, that is one of the ways that you can meet other people who have similar values to you, who have similar interests to you. And you might be surprised at just how effective that kind of a network can be as well. Even though it's seemingly completely unrelated to your career, it's not as separate as you might think. And then social media, of course, is an enormous opportunity for business networking. We have a tendency to think of Facebook, for instance, as only something I do to keep track of, people I went to school with or my kids and my grandkids and what they're up to. But in reality, social media is so much more than that. There are professional organizations that you can join online. So even if you don't have any resources nearby geographically, there are professional associations that would be available to you where you can tap into the collective world knowledge to help you with any problems or difficulties that you are facing. Executive Secretary Magazine is easily an example of that on Facebook, but there's many other organizations as well that would be worth exploring. Social media can also focus on the interests that you have. So, if you're interested in learning Microsoft Office, there would be groups out there, Facebook, LinkedIn, other organizations that would focus on preparing you for Microsoft Office specialist certification exams, for example, or just learning the software better. Many of the software websites, like Microsoft, have community forums where people that use their software can get together and brainstorm and share ideas and inspirations and things they've come across that they think are really great. And so look for those kinds of opportunities online that can help you to build up a network. In that situation, it would be a network of experts. But there's other reasons why you might want to be networking with people than just purely their knowledge. There's a lot of different things that you can gain from networking. So, what's going to make good networking? What does it mean to have a good network? Your goal should be to build a relationship and then leave that door open for future interactions. That means that you need to bring the value. You need to get value from the networking that you do, but you also need to give value. This is reciprocal, it's very much a two-way street. So, when you're looking to make connections, don't just think about who can help you. Think about who you can help. Who could I introduce someone to? Who could I connect? Be looking for those opportunities every single day. Every single interaction that you have with anyone else, always be thinking about what can I do to help this person on their journey. If someone is launching a new business, think about who would be a good vendor for them to know, who would be a good supplier of services, who would be their potential customer. Do I know anyone that might want to hire this company? Think through those kinds of things and do everything you can to make those connections, whether you benefit from them personally or not. And what you'll find is that people will tend to think of you in a positive way. They'll be more inclined to want to help you when your hour of need comes in the future. And everybody's going to have some time when they have an hour of need. It might be something big and dramatic, but it might just be something small. You never know when these connections will end up paying off. But I will say, don't go into that experience expecting the return. We have a tendency to think that, well, if I give them hours and hours and hours of my time, they're going to give me hours and hours and hours of their time. That may not happen. So don't go in with that expectation that they're going to match exactly what you do. They may not. They may not be in a position to. They may not have a desire to. They may be stretched too thin themselves. So they can't necessarily give you back exactly what you're putting in. Your goal in putting in to the relationship should be about putting out good karma into the world in general. And I'm a big believer in this. So I try to help other people, whether it's going to help me or not. If people come to me, for instance, and they ask about the certifications, I'm happy to share information with them, even if they're not going to sign up for my study groups. It doesn't matter. I just want them to improve their education and improve their careers. And so whether they choose me or they choose one of the other fantastic trainers out there in the world, or whether they choose to go down a different career path entirely, I just want to help them because I think it's a good thing to do and it puts out good karma into the world. And I think the world could use more good karma right now. So I really want to emphasize that strongly. Do it because it's the right thing to do, not because you are expecting to get something back that's equal to your effort. And recognize that in the end, it's all going to be a wash. So maybe you won't get it from that person, but you will get it from someone else down the line. It's all going to even out in the end. And when you start looking at it that way, you think of a good network more as almost a bartering kind of system, but not just between two people, between your connections and their connections and all these other connections. And it becomes this giant web where we all share and we all grow and we all improve. And so that is what's going to ultimately make good networking. How do you get started networking, especially if you're shy? That's, I think, one of the biggest things I see with administrative professionals in particular is that we do not want to be in the limelight. There is a minuscule percentage of admins that want to be in the limelight. The vast majority of us want to put our boss up in the limelight. We're happy to support them. We want them to get the accolades. Obviously we want accolades, but we are comfortable with our boss being in the spotlight and us staying in the shadows, making sure everything goes smoothly. So I think that there is a significant percentage of individuals in our profession who are very shy and very nervous about going out and meeting new people and putting themselves out there that way. So I would encourage you to start by thinking small. If you go to something like a networking event, look for a group of people that's not two people. Look for a group of like 3 or 4 people, something where you can kind of easily blend into that group. You can listen and absorb the conversation, and then you can join it, and it's not a cliquish kind of feeling. Whereas if you walk up to 2 people that are having a conversation, it's hard not to feel like the proverbial third wheel. So I think it helps if you get a group that has a few more people in it. It's not effective to go up to a group of 100 people, but look for a group that's like 3 people, 4 people. They're probably going to be a little bit more open to accepting a newcomer and absorbing you into their circle. When you walk up to them, start by introducing yourself. Hi, my name is Marie. Maybe provide a little bit of background information like, this is my first time at this organization and I'm a little unsure of what's going on. Would you mind if I joined your group and just got to know you a little bit? And most people are very happy to help out a new person. It's in our, for most of us, it's our instinctual response that, oh, you're new here. Let me take you under my wing. Let me try to help you. Let me try to give you directions. Let me try to explain what's going on. So if it is your first visit to somewhere, be sure to mention that. It will make people more inclined to want to work with you and to help you out. Think about what questions you could ask. I think the art of small talk is something that really does need to be taught. It doesn't necessarily come naturally to everyone, but we can help ourselves to become better at small talk. And one of the best ways to do that is to think about questions to ask. So don't just ask questions that would be yes or no answers. Have you been here before? Yes, I have. Okay, where does the conversation go from there? Instead, ask the open ended questions of, if you're going to ask, have you been here before? What made you, if they say no, then you have the follow up question of, well, what made you decide to come tonight? And if they say yes, say, that's fantastic. What makes you keep coming back here? And do something to create a question that has an essay type of answer instead of a yes or no kind of answer, so that they need to expand on their thoughts. And that can give you a starting point for a conversation that you can then build on. You can always, of course, ask the classics of, what do you do for a living? Things like that. But I also try to ask questions that really do get people better engaged. So if they say, I'm a lawyer, maybe to ask, oh, what made you decide to join the law profession? What is it that you're passionate about when it comes to the law? Something that really can get them more engaged in that conversation. Give a compliment. And I don't mean a false compliment or an empty compliment, but look for something that you really like and appreciate about that person. It could be something simple like, I love the color of that dress that you're wearing. That's very flattering to your skin color. But give a compliment. That will help to put people at ease. That can make them start talking to you as well. Even if it's simply a thank you. But look for, what are the things that I can compliment in different people. And don't be effusive with your compliments. I mean, people will feel very uncomfortable if some stranger walks up to them and is just fawning over them. I think that makes most of us very uncomfortable. But an honest compliment of something that you notice that they do really well, that I think can go a long way. And if you can expand on it to have a something that I would call not too personal kind of compliment. So, in other words, I wouldn't compliment on. I'd be careful about saying something like, you have beautiful eyes, where they're going to think you're getting frisky with them. I wouldn't do something of that nature, especially since I've been married 30 years. But I really do think that compliments, we need more compliments in the world in general. So look for a compliment that you can share with these people. Something that you appreciate about them, something that you think is unique about them, something that will make them laugh, perhaps, but something that they will appreciate hearing. Have your elevator speech ready. Now, I'm not really big on elevator speeches. I can give them, but I'm not really big on them. An elevator speech, if you're not familiar with that term, it came about from venture capital world of people raising, doing fundraising, doing pitches to try to get money. And what it was is that you got on the elevator with someone, and the only amount of time you had is this space between floors on the elevator to convince them to buy your product or buy your service or invest money in your company. And that was your elevator speech. Essentially, if you only had 30 seconds to tell someone what you do, what you're all about, here's what you can say in 30 seconds. And what you'll find with many elevator speeches is that they're so canned, they're so pre-prepared that it feels like rote memorization, and there's often no emotion with them, and it just falls flat. Very few of us want to hear someone give an actual elevator pitch of, they so often use what I would call fake terminology. They're very inauthentic. So it would be something like, hi, I'm so and so, and lose weight now, ask me how, or any of those kind of things. So I'm not real big on those kind of elevator speeches. But the advantage of an elevator speech is that it's a ready answer for when someone asks you, hi, what do you do? Or hi, why are you here? And so have a prepared answer available for what you're going to say when someone introduces themselves and asks that kind of a question. And so it should be, of course, relevant to the event that you're at. If you are at a job fair, then you're going to have a different elevator speech versus if you are at an association for your profession, versus if you are at a cocktail party for your company where you're representing the company as an employee. You're going to have different answers. But what it really comes down to is think about what are the most common questions that people would ask for small talk. Things like, so what do you do? So what are you doing here? Those kinds of questions, and have some prepared answers. 2 or 3 sentences that give an idea of what you do. So in my own case, if people ask me, what do you do? I have a couple of different things I'll do. I'll say I'm a trainer. And in my case, let's just say I'm a fluffy, voluptuous woman. And so the next question is pretty commonly, what kind of training do you do? And I sometimes will self-deprecatingly point to myself and say, I'm a personal trainer. Can't you tell? And while that amuses me tremendously, it's probably not the best way to introduce myself. But then I will follow up with the more serious. I'm actually a trainer for companies. I provide professional development training for administrative professionals. I focus on technology and career development topics. And so that gives them a better idea of who I am and what I do. But I kind of like throwing that little joke in there because there are, of course, so many different kinds of trainers out in the world. So When you're doing it, think about what's something that you could do that would be kind of funny or kind of unique. Have some fun with it. Some people like to do a real hook kind of an elevator speech where it's something that really, pulls them in and catches their interest and they're intrigued and they just can't help themselves. And you'll see this sometimes in Facebook groups, especially if you belong to any groups for entrepreneurs. This is a common question. They'll ask something like, introduce yourself, but do it in the worst way possible. It's a standing joke with people of how would you describe your job in the worst way possible. And I think that's something that people can use to have a little fun with it. It could be things like, I am so if I'm saying I'm a trainer, I terrify my students to try to get them ready for exams. Something like that, where it's a little different. It's a, wait, what? What did they say? Did I hear that right? But something kind of fun. So there's different ways you can approach that. Do an icebreaker. So an icebreaker is helpful if you're in a group setting where you want to kind of try and get things started for a conversation. One of the things you might have seen in many organizations, corporate events, when they want to introduce people, they'll do a classic of go around the table and tell two truths and one lie, and everybody try to figure out which one's the truth and which one is the lie. It's a very common networking exercise for people to get to know each other. The point of those kinds of icebreakers is to get people to relax. It literally breaks the ice between them. It thaws the relationship a little bit. Because when you first meet someone, you'll tend to be very reserved. You'll tend to be very formal. And so it's a way to get people to relax a little bit, have some fun with it. So think about your own kinds of icebreakers. Maybe you could share something about yourself, or maybe you could ask them something that's really out of left field, so to speak. Maybe it could be something like, if you could retire on anywhere in the world and money was no concern, where would you go and why? Something like that to just kind of get them thinking and get them off balance just a little bit, but in a good way, to get them focused on something other than, I'm here at a formal networking event and I feel like I must be on my best behavior and I'm very concerned that I'm going to say the wrong thing. So it gets them out of that frame of mind. Excuse me, drink of water. And then lastly, be interested in people. If you're not interested in people, they will quickly realize it and they will quickly move on. Be interested in what they're saying and what they have to share with you, in how they can help you and how you can help them, and be open to possibilities. Sometimes we have a tendency with networking to only think about, how can this person help me? And if this person can't help me, then I don't want to waste my time on them. I want to move on to the next person. And instead, I prefer to think of it as much more seriously. How can I help this person and how can they help me in the future? And I really try to push myself to think of some out of the box ways that might happen. And so some could be, if I meet someone and they're a certain kind of a vendor, maybe they sell certain products. Like I came across a fantastic candy maker. She makes handmade chocolates. And so I immediately start thinking about, how can I help this person? I probably know people that run fundraisers that are looking for new kinds of fundraisers, and I could partner her up with them and sell chocolates as a fundraiser. I probably have people that are doing events that are looking for some unusual giveaways for their attendees, and I could introduce her to them. And I could potentially introduce her to people at companies where they're doing corporate events and they're looking for thank you gifts or some other employee morale boosting item, and hook her up with those companies. So by being interested in them and really learning about what they do, what they have to offer, it starts the wheels turning for me of, how can I actually help them? And sometimes I go the other way and I think, what can they do for me? And I might have a knee jerk reaction of, well, I would never do anything with chocolate. Well, in fact, maybe I would. Maybe I could work with her to create Christmas gifts for my students. Or maybe I could arrange for a retreat if I'm thinking about doing a retreat in the future, not so much right now, but post COVID-19. And so I might have her create gift baskets for welcome for the retreat. So really be interested, but be open to thinking about things in different ways than you might otherwise. Don't assume a knee jerk reaction that you'll never have a need for their service and I don't need to worry about them anymore. But equally important, and in fact, I would say even more important, is by being interested in people, it means you go beyond what they do. It's beyond the work. And by that, I mean, get to know them as a whole person. What are their interests? What are their hobbies? What are their passions? What are the things that make them get up every day and get excited? And so, really focus as much on that as on the actual work. So, if you think you have no need for their actual work, go beyond that. Think about, how you can find out more about them. And I have discovered so many interesting things in this way. I belong to an association that is for entrepreneurs. And they have monthly meetings where they get together and there could be 50 people in a room and it's for networking. Everybody goes around and introduces themselves. But that's not really where the magic happens, so to speak. What they do is they encourage that between those monthly meetings, individuals get together for one-on-one meetings to get to know each other. Not with any intention of selling. There's no, building your upline if you're a multi-level marketing company or anything like that. Instead, it is all about getting to know each other. And it's something that really has developed into some very strong relationships for me, some strong friendships, whether I'll ever buy their products or not. And the very first one that I went on, I kind of rolled my eyes and I thought, oh, what am I going to talk about with this person? I don't know them. I don't even know what I'm going to say. And yet when we went and we started talking and just getting to know each other better, we discovered we had a whole range of other things completely outside our businesses that we had in common. By being interested in people, you take the time to discover all the different ways that you have things in common and how really people are much more about what's similar than about what's different between us. And that's something else that the world could probably use more of right now. When you're working online, when you're looking at online networks, there's a lot of ways that you can utilize your network. For instance, with a job search, if you're going to be going in for a job search, search for people that are in that company that you want to apply for. If you're looking for people to connect with in the online world, start by searching for people that are in your own company and reach out to them. Do maybe a LinkedIn. Now, I would obviously be very careful of which people I would connect with within my company, depending on which social network I'm talking about. I don't necessarily friend people in my current company on Facebook, for instance, even though I don't have anything particularly embarrassing in my Facebook. But I'd be more inclined to go with LinkedIn for something of that nature rather than Facebook. That's a personal preference of mine, but I think it's a wise one. If you It very much depends on your company and your colleagues and what they're like and how trustworthy they are and how much personal stuff you actually put on your personal pages. But I would be very hesitant to have my colleagues on my personal pages in that respect. You might look for local companies that you're interested in learning more about, whether friending them, whether reaching out to the owner of the business and asking them if they'd like to get together for coffee so that you can learn more about their company and their services. And you might be saying, well, I don't have time for all those kinds of meetings. But I think this is something you need to invest the time in. But you can set limits on it. I absolutely do set limits on it because networking can become an enormous time sucker if you're not careful. Right now, there's many organizations that instead of doing in-person networking, they're doing online networking. COVID-19 has clearly had an enormous impact on the ability to meet up with people, especially strangers, locally. So they're turning to Zoom meetings instead. And so there's ways you can do it where you could maybe designate, I'm going to spend 1 hour a week focusing on my networking. And just you can choose how you're going to do it. Do I reach out to an organization and join one of their online chapter type meetings where I'm going to meet like 40 people at once? Or do I reach out to one individual and start with them one on one? Again, it could be as a Zoom meeting, or it could be as um, a live meeting as well if there's someone local, in which case of course you're going to do the standard safety precautions of, say, meeting somewhere public and letting someone know where you're going. But be open to that possibility, because there really is a whole world out there of people that are future friends if you allow them to be. Facebook groups are another tremendous opportunity for a local network. You can look at local community, so people within your own town. You can look for shared interests. You can look for shared hobbies. You can look for things like, I'm an administrative professional, so I'm going to look for administrative professional groups. You can look for general interests. I'm interested in recycling or something like that. Whatever you have an interest in and a passion in, start there with reaching out and trying to build up some networks. And I also focus on, where do I want to be in the future? So if your plan is you want to move up to this kind of a position, then start networking with people that have that kind of a position, or people that place people in that kind of a position. So you might look at, if I'm trying to move up to become an admin to a CEO, look for other groups that are focused on admins to CEOs. Look for recruiting agencies that focus on admins to CEOs. Look for the skill set that you would need to be ready to be an admin to the CEO. So travel, meeting planning, computer technology skills. So look for whatever will get you there. Reach out to mentors, reach out to the industry that you might want to work in. Look at it from multiple perspectives. There's a lot of different ways to identify a network that might be a good matchup for what your ultimate end goal is. But it helps if you first know, where do you want to go? What's your purpose? What are you working towards? And then from there, you can break it out that there's lots of ways to get there. There's not just one path from point A to point B. There could be 10 different paths to get from point A to point B. And don't be afraid to reach out. So ask if someone would like to get together for coffee, just to get to know each other. And so kind of the way that conversation could go, because that's something that I think is terrifying for a lot of people, would be, hi, I'm Jane Doe. I'm an admin at XYZ company. I'm looking to expand my network and my friendships. And I thought, with you being a fellow admin, that you and I might have a lot in common. Would you be interested in getting some coffee, or maybe going to lunch, just to get to know each other a little bit better? Start with something like that. Simple, explaining, I wanted to take an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. How would you like to grab lunch? And if that's too scary, then how about if we, just take a coffee break for a few minutes and say hello and, get to know each other a little bit. I will often reach out to new employees. So if someone is new to the company, I'll reach out to them. I want them to feel welcome within the company. And I also want to know more about them. So it's very much a mutual benefit to do something like this, especially with new employees, but with other employees too. And I think this is something that you can look at from a couple of different perspectives as well. So you could reach out to people that have the knowledge within the organization. If there is someone who has worked there for 40 years, man, that is the ideal person to reach out to learn more and to just absorb all the wisdom that they have to share with you. You can look for people that are in positions of power. Very often, people are afraid to reach out to people that are in positions of power, and they are often lonely at the top. So reaching out to them could be a tremendous opportunity. Clearly they need to understand that you're not trying to mine them for gossip or anything of that nature, but that's a friendship that is worth cultivating for sure. You could also look at, as I mentioned, new employees as another resource for you. But you could also look at things like reaching out to people that might have ideas that you would be interested in. That could be big ideas for the company of changes that they might like to see, to maybe hear about those and see which ones you might want to get involved with. There's all different ways that you can approach reaching out to others, especially within your own company. And then look beyond your company too. So don't limit your interactions just to people that you know, just to people that work within your company. It's a whole big world out there. Take advantage of that. Expand your network to people that you haven't met yet, that you haven't interacted with, that could be the key to something brand new coming your way. So don't be afraid to reach out. I would also encourage you to consider the unusual. So I'm not super big on going to lunch with people I don't know. I love going to lunch with people I do know. I don't love going to lunch with people I've never met before because I do feel like it's a little bit awkward in that respect, that first meeting. Now I've done it and it's perfectly fine. It's gone fine. I have no reason why I shouldn't go and do lunch with people. But for me, part of it is that I also am all about the productivity. And so part of the reason that I would scale back my networking is because I wasn't getting work done during the networking time. And if I did it too often during a month, it could be a serious impact upon my productivity. So what I started doing was looking at networking through different eyes. And I thought about how could I instead use that time productively while also getting to know someone. And so I gave a couple of examples here of maybe would you like to go to a concert together, some local event of shared interest, like a flower show or something, do a project together, shared interests, start a book club. This is something that I have really embraced, and it has been eye-opening and life-changing for me. Now, it's been on hold the last 6 months because of the pandemic, but prior to that, for the last several years, what I've started doing is reaching out to local groups. I started with my entrepreneurs group and I started with personal friends. And I do what I call project swaps. So I will put out the word in a Facebook group, for instance, for people that are local to me, that I am looking for someone to come to my house and be a minion for me, where we're working on a project and you're literally just going to be there. I'm going to say, move this, do this, do this, do this, and we get a project done. And then I will go to your house and I will be your minion for 2 to 4 hours on whatever project you have. And you just stand there and well, not stand there. I mean, we work together, of course, but you tell me what you want done. This has been, I am not kidding you, life changing. I have gotten more things done in the last, say, 2 years that I've been doing this than I got done in the last 10 years prior to that when it comes to the projects that you procrastinate on. You guys know what I'm talking about. Everybody's got those kinds of projects where it's something like filing or organizing a closet or whatever. It could be cleaning, decluttering, it could be painting a bench, it could be whatever you want it to be. But that kind of project where it goes faster with two people, not only because of man hours faster, but also because you're focused. When you've got someone standing there waiting for you to tell them what to do next, you are focused on the task at hand. Whereas when you're trying to do it alone, it becomes, oh, I think I need to do a load of laundry. I'm going through this closet and, oh, look at this magazine. Well, I have to read through the articles in the magazine before I can throw it out. So I'll do that next. And, before you know it, hours have slipped away and you're not done with that project yet. But when you're doing it with someone else, you can be so focused, you get way more done in those 2, 3 hours than you would by yourself in 10 times as long. And so this has been extremely effective for me. And I've used it for all different kinds of projects, cleaning out my shed, doing a freezer inventory, decluttering my craft room and setting it up. I've just done a variety of projects. And so I the ground rules, so to speak, are we each put in an equal amount of time, so somewhere between 2 and 4 hours. So you pick a project that's small enough you can get it done in like a half a day, and we have to trade. So you come to my house, I come to your house, we do an equal amount in that respect. And then during that time, we're also doing some chatting, we're getting to know each other. And usually I set it up where, say it's 3 hours in the morning. So you come to my house from 9 to 12, and then let's go to lunch, and then we'll go to your house from 1 to 4. And so we have that immediate project at hand to talk about to just help the time go faster. And it's been extremely effective. I strongly encourage you, if you're looking for a way to build a network, but you're not really comfortable just sitting and talking with people, find something to do with them. So, others within my organization have seen the success I've had with this, and they've started doing similar kinds of things where now they get together not just for like lunch, which also can be expensive, but instead they go for a walk so they get their exercise in, or they'll do yoga together, or whatever, they do some shared interest. So think about unusual ways that you can get to know people too. And so, especially if money is a factor, and I think for a lot of people it is. I don't want to go out to dinner, multiple times a month and spend a lot of money on that kind of stuff. Instead, you could look at meeting at the library, meeting for a walk in the park, doing a project swap, getting together and doing a craft together. That's one of my future ones. Is once I get my project swaps done, I'm going to start doing craft swaps for things I've not gotten done. So I feel like I'm also being productive while I'm doing my networking. Host them on your balcony or your patio. I've done this as well. I just served lemonade and something simple like ice cream or cookies, and that's it, nothing fancy. And we just sat out on the balcony. This is what I've done during COVID-19. I limit the size to just like 4 people so we can be well spread out on my patio. We've got plenty of distance and we're outside, and that's worked really well. And people are hungry for human contact right now. This pandemic has been so stressful from the context of personal relationships that people really are looking for ways to have some interaction, some social interaction. Do a doggy play date. You both go and walk your dogs together or something is another possibility. So it's possible that the conversation is going to be perfectly natural. You're going to start talking like old friends right from the first moment. But if it doesn't go that way, if you need some help, ask them how they got started in their business or on their career path. What made you decide to become an administrative professional? What drew you to it? How did you end up in this role? How did you meet your spouse? What are you passionate about in life? What's your dream vacation location and why? So think about actual questions that you can ask. Come up with, just a half a dozen or so that are some spontaneous, fun things that will get people started talking and that will get the conversation flowing. It's important to set aside time to meet with people and to grow your network. So only you can decide how much time is too much or too little. For myself, I would say I try to do at least one new person a month in general. And then there are times where I'll do, if I'm doing my project swaps, I try to do those like twice a month, where it might be we do everything in one day and I set aside 2 days of the month to do that. Or it could be we do one at my house and then one at their house. But either way, I try to set it up where maybe every other week we're going to do a couple of hours. And that means I am constantly making progress towards my personal goals of decluttering and organizing my house and getting, rooms set up the way I want them. So that's one of the things that I love about this is how you can use your network to help achieve your goals. And so maybe something like I want to become certified in Microsoft Office specialist, or I want to become a certified administrative professional or some other designation. Well, reach out to local people in a similar, who would have similar interests, who would want to do that kind of certification, and get yourself some study buddies. And that's a great way to get to know each other. I did that back when I very first joined a professional association. This was more than 20 years ago. And I became great friends with a local woman who was also going to go for the CAP. And we ended up becoming study buddies. And we got together every week and we studied together and we passed together. And it was an incredible bonding experience. So if you have a goal that you are working towards, find someone else who shares that goal and incorporate that into your networking. The time to build your network, as I mentioned earlier, is before you need it. People will not refer you if they don't know, like, and trust you. That's a common understanding in the networking world, is that people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And so that's why in some of the MLMs, those multi-level marketing organizations, they push so heavily to try to, be all extra friendly with you. And you know how fake it comes across sometimes. We know it. We don't like being there. We don't like feeling manipulated. But on the other hand, when you are working with someone, when you're getting to know them and you are authentically interested in them, you're getting to know each other, you're getting to like each other, it builds trust between you. And it means that you're going to be much more likely to refer people. If you think about it, we have probably all been approached by someone during our life who asked for a referral, and something inside us went, "What? No, no, I don't want to give you a referral. I don't feel like I know you well enough. I don't like you well enough. I don't trust you well enough." We've all had that uncomfortable moment. And we might have said, yeah, okay, I'll act as your referral, and just kind of crossed our fingers and hoped that the call never came. But we probably didn't have the honest conversation we should have had with that person as to why we were not comfortable giving them a referral. But that's really what it comes down to. We don't know, like, or trust that person sufficiently. We are not going to give them a referral. This is why it is so critical to build your network before you need it. Before you lose your job, that's the time to be building your network for the future. So, why might you need social media even? I mean, at some point during, most of us are going to have like 45 years in the working world, you're going to be between jobs. And when is the last time that you touched base with your references? If you lost your job today, what references would you give? And when is the last time you actually had contact with them? Do you wait until you're looking for a new job to reestablish contact with those people? Do they have any idea what skills or certifications you've added since you last saw or worked with them? Well, they would if they were in your online network and you were providing regular updates. If you think about it, if you heard about a job loss of two people that you've known for 10 years, who would you rather help? The one you worked with for 2 years, 10 years ago, who hasn't talked to you since they left that company, or the one who you are connected with on social media, who you have regular interactions with, who has sent you happy birthday greetings, who has posted notices about they got certified in this and they did this for updates and they did this and whatnot. Which person would you feel better about recommending? Clearly, it's going to be the person you've kept in touch with, who you've seen has continued to develop their skills, who is continuing to advance their career. So at some point in time, if you're not currently doing a job search, you will someday. And someday, maybe sooner than you think with the world pandemic. Online networks are really about this long-term relationship that you are building. Acquaintances are going to feel like they know you. Even if they actually might not, they're going to feel like they know you. And it increases the chance of success of any new ventures, whatever they might be. Because when you announce it to your social networks, people are rooting for you. People will be asking about it. People will be encouraging you. It helps you to go forward. And quite honestly, this is another huge soapbox of my own. If you have no updates to share at all, that should be a big red flag to you about your own professional development. If you have absolutely nothing to post, there is nothing you can think of to post, then you are stagnating in your career. And if you did lose your job today, you might get some very unpleasant surprises when you go to look for new jobs about what people think about your skills, where your technical skills are, what you are qualified for, because the world may have changed while you were sitting there stagnating. And so it really is important to incorporate social media into your strategy of career development. So, what kinds of things could you post? Here's just some examples. And I actually wrote an article on this for Executive Secretary Magazine. So, if that were something that you're interested in learning more about, you can go and find it. It's on Executive Secretary Magazine's website, of course. And you will find that, hold on, I'm going to look up and see what issue that was. That was in the September of 2019 issue. So that was on social media post ideas of like top 20 things you could use as something to post about. So, some examples here: attending a professional meeting or training, sharing something that you learned at that training, running for office in your chapter or division of your professional association, sitting for or passing a certification test, sharing knowledge that you gained about software, writing an article for a company newsletter, maybe sharing something inspirational to you, preparing for your performance review, all examples of things that you could post. Other things, if you're planning a meeting, something that you're working on at work, obviously you can't share confidential details, but you can talk about things in general, like, wow, it's been crazy. I'm coordinating 90 different summer students here, getting them all set up and ready to go. It's a huge thing, but I love it every year seeing these excited kids coming in to learn more about our profession. So something like that you could share, and you're not sharing any confidential secret details. Celebrating the success of a meeting that you planned that went well, recommending a career related book or some other self help book, presenting a program to your coworkers about what you've learned, do a lunch and learn session, being nominated for or receiving an award, listing a goal that you set, sharing your excitement about an upcoming event. All of these are examples of things that you could do on social media to engage with other people in your network, to stay top of mind so that they will think of you if a job opening comes up, for instance, or they will think of you if they come across someone that would be good to introduce you to. It's all about cultivating that network and getting people familiar with you and giving them an idea of what you're all about, what kind of person you are. And I think you'll agree, you absolutely get an idea of what people are like just from interacting with them on social media. There are some people that I feel like I would be better friends with them than I would with people I know in real life based on what I've seen of them on social media. So there is no question to me that that is very true. You can use your social media and your online networks to help your job searches. So before you go applying for a job, search through your social networking for people that work at that company. You can ask if there is a referral bonus of any type. You can also ask inside questions about the culture, get some tips for things that the company values or likes. So that's one of the uses of your network that can help you with a job search. And clearly you're going to do the common things with your social networking of checking for the most common mistakes, typographical errors, anything like that, unwise postings. That's a quick way to destroy your network, is having some unwise things on your sites. I do encourage you to separate out your personal from your professional as much as you can. So for instance, I wouldn't really do political rants on LinkedIn, for example. I choose to do it on some of my personal Facebook pages, but I keep that kind of stuff off of my business pages as much as I can, just because I think it's a wise choice. Try to seek to help before asking for help. So actively look for opportunities to connect people. Someone wants to buy something and that Oh, there's a typo. There's a good example of a typo right after the slide talking about typos. Someone wants to buy something that someone sells. I'll be fixing that typo. That's an example of an opportunity to connect people. Someone would be a great partner to someone that you know. Someone could help someone find a job. Someone could help someone with advice on a work situation. Someone needs help figuring out a technology issue. All of those kinds of things are opportunities for you to connect to people. Take advantage of those, introduce them. So and so, here is so and so. This person runs a nonprofit and is looking for funds. And I know you were thinking about some opportunities for your company foundation to support local organizations. You two should connect. Look for things like that where you can connect people and start new relationships. Before you know it, you are going to become the go to resource within your network. People will think of you first. People will know that if they need something, you're the person to ask. And that is a tremendously valuable place to be in any network. That's what you're going for. You may not know the answer, but you know someone who does know the answer when you've built up your business network and you've reached out to them. And you'll be amazed at all the ways that that pays off long term. I mean, I'll never forget years ago, I worked for a company where my boss was traveling to France. He had never been there before. He was a little bit nervous about going because he didn't speak the language. And I reached out in my network and I found an admin who worked for a French company there who agreed to be available to my boss if he had any questions and he needed kind of concierge services, so to speak, of I need a recommendation for a restaurant or I need something proofread or whatever. And so she agreed to be on call for him because of the tremendous time difference we would have. And I went in and I told him that I found an admin locally who will be available to help you if you have questions. She'll be your go-to person. And he was just astounded that I had that in my network. That's what you become when you build a network. So I want to encourage you to reach out, grow your networks. Excuse me. Reach out, grow your networks, and use them to build the career of your dreams. You can do that. All right. I am Marie Herman. I am signing off for Admin Chat for Executive Secretary Magazine. Thank you all for joining me. And just so you know, if you're not familiar with my services, I provide training for the Certified Administrative Professional, Google G Suite, and Microsoft Office Specialist exams. So if you're interested in pursuing certification, please visit my website, mrhenterprises.com, and sign up for my mailing list. Thanks everyone for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this Admin Chat program, and sign in every week. Every Thursday, new programs come up from Executive Secretary Magazine. So there is always something new to learn here on the Admin Chat programs. Thanks, everyone.